The crisis in education is one of the longest and most unresolvable problems in our country. The issue of budgeting or lack of funds resulting in poor facilities and desperately low wages for teachers, creating a teacher shortage. Another challenge is recreating the school curriculum to suitably prepare students for life and work in the 21st century, and those impact the overall educational and school administration. The educational system will not function effectively with weak school administration. In this case, the researchers have seen the issue of school management strategy in line with the current situation of education today in times of pandemic, wherein technology plays a huge role in modern society and the field of education is no exception. Classroom management is the action of teachers to establish and sustain an environment that fosters students' academic achievement as well as their social, emotional, and moral growth. A well-mannered classroom directly affects your students' ability to learn and your ability to teach. Most importantly, a well-managed classroom highly impacts students' academic success.
It was never a new issue in the Philippines that the education was not at its optimum. However, the year 2019 to 2022 shattered and changed the entire academe and the educational institutions' approach to managing and implementing the country's teaching and learning process. It was the most difficult year in the Philippine education, especially for the teachers, students, and parents, which is caused by a pandemic that, even after more than 2 years of spreading, no one can guarantee that this virus has been completely eradicated. Now, let us talk about why such problems are existing. First and foremost, there is no doubt that the pandemic change had affected the educational system, followed by an unprepared government and citizens. Misinformation from various platforms and created and caused confusion and misunderstanding, as well as misconception among leaders and their states. Poverty, unfamiliarity with various modalities and practices of technology, and finally, the unresolved lack of sufficient and completed facilities, equipment, trainings, specialization, and skills that is needed by our country's teachers and students even before everything about the pandemic happened. While it is true that no one is prepared for these changes, we, the student, teachers, and parents are the ones who are suffering the most.
The country's education sector greatly impacted, wherein classroom management now becomes significant concern. In the event of sudden change due to pandemic, governmental education authorities, instructors, and parents are urged to adapt and adjust to new learning world as quickly as possible. Simultaneously, the school is rapidly evolving as the new teaching objectives and subjects are included in new curriculum. New teaching methods, various pedagogical approach, and instructor roles are redefined. As a result, teaching and classroom management have impact on the overall administration of the school. The teaching elements has been significantly modified as teaching settings have become mandatory and dynamically changing, and as face-to-face teaching learning has altered into distance teaching learning. To address the availability of education amidst the pandemic, officials in charge of education have worked out on how to tackle the situation. Just like having different teaching methods, modular learning is one of them, where it entails individualized instructions that allow learners to use self-learning modules in print or digital electronic copy as an appropriate in the learner's context, as well as other learning resources like learner's materials, textbooks, activity sheets, and study guides.
Added to this was the introduction of the e-learning is the delivery of learning and training through digital resources. Information is highly provided through electronic devices such as computers, tablets, and cellular phones that are all accompanied by the internet. Online learning, that is a virtual setting classroom connected to students and teachers in a virtual setting, had offers to different knowledge demonstration. The AOL or asynchronous learning and SL or synchronous learning, these are only a few examples of the pandemic's positive effects, because it allows instructors and students to be more productive as well as access and learn the integration of technology in education. It promotes the growth of the Filipino learner and teacher community as it does in other first world countries. However, if there is a positive effect, there are also negative effects. Not everyone is capable of using technology, and neither students nor teachers will be able to adjust to this transition instantly. Also, students have immediate access to cheating and plagiarizing works, which is common in traditional learning but made easier by technology.
The persons that's responsible for these circumstances in our new normal learning environment are the government, parents, instructors, and also the students. The responsibility of the government is to provide some resources that we need in our studies, to give financial support and gadgets for the students that might be lacking in financial to buy those things that needed in online learning. For the parents, they're responsible to give support emotionally, financially, and physically to the learners. We are fully aware how tiring and draining this kind of new learning environment. And we also heard some news that there are students that committed suicide because of the pressure that they are feeling inside. For the instructors, they are responsible to give some consideration for the students. We are all affected in this pandemic. We should practice empathy to one another. They also need to check their students at least once a week, especially those students that are struggling in online learning. It helps a lot. And lastly, for us students, our responsibility is to do our tasks as a learners and apply all that we learn in this new normal learning. It may be hard and draining for us, but we should take some rest too. Our mental health is more important in this kind of new setup.
Because of some situation affect students' ability to learn, researchers presented the SSS, or the Student Sensitive Strategy, which was formulated as a feasible approach to attain erudition for learners in the midst of the rigorous COVID-19 pandemic. This strategic proposal consists of the following. First one, the sense of belongingness. It's all about analyzing the students' entry to develop and offer classroom instructions based on their skills, learning style, needs, and general characteristics. The shift to a virtual classroom worsened this trend. Students' feelings of alienation and a lack of sense of belongingness. There are two ways to implement this sense of belongingness, especially for unprivileged pupils. First one, have a formal gathering of the data like online surveys and teachers-made assessment to analyze the students' backgrounds. Second one, the informal means such as questioning in the class, interviews after or out of class sessions. The second strategic proposal is the growth mindset. The growth mindset is a realistic encouragement of the teachers to the online students to be committed and enthusiastic, be willing to take on the challenges brought by the pandemic. There are four major ways must be done in the classroom. First one, the orientation, where a timetable of goals and expected success are provided so that the learners will be guided in their behaviors in the class. The second one, the evaluation. It allows the teachers to assess and evaluate accurate information about what is truly understood and what has to be done next time. The third one, the motivation, where the teacher recognizes the complexities of the current situation but ignited the affective side of the students through hopeful, reasonable, and inspiring acts, bolstering their intrinsic drive to continue studying. The last one is giving feedback. It's also beneficial to students' success simply by rewarding their every success immediately and giving specific and honest feedback that helps them better understand themselves, allowing them to intentionally prioritize improvement, receive corrective feedback, and demonstrate positive conduct in class.
Number 3, transparency. The transparency is a process of providing the student information, instruction clearly for them to understand how they will be assessed that allow them to make their progression. To implement these, there are 4 major ways must be done in the virtual classroom. First way is activity transparency. Teacher may inquire about any lesson or activities the student does not understand or with which the student having developed in order to assess a problem and develop possible intervention and modification, the demonstration and acquisition of the lesson. Second is the Learning Virtual Journal. As I mentioned already, the second strategy is also applicable in establishing transparency in the classroom where it is possible the knowledge of obtained during a certain week of discussion. And the third way is the Parents-Teacher Assessment where at least 1 month teacher and parents will meet and discuss their children's academic performance and behavior at home. And lastly, teacher-to-teacher meeting. Because an online class that do not have just one teacher for each semester is quite clever to have a teacher-to-teacher meeting, address each strategy used in a single set-up classroom, and then have chance to evaluate the same student in order to come with innovative solution that can be applied to all. And number 4, collaboration. Collaboration is the process of 2 or more individual entities or organization cooperation to complete a task or achieve a goal. By presenting the information enhancing social interpersonal skill, collaborative and group projects and activities can enhance the educational experience.
The beauty of the previously recommended SSS, aka Student-Sensitive Strategies, is that it frequently overlaps to each other. But among the 4 strategies, there is one that embodied the rest. The first strategy called Sense of Belongingness. Looking back, it tells us that the appropriate pedagogies and understanding of the students' diverse needs were by all means greater than having computer or technological skills and paramount to attain an effective teaching in an online learning. Exactly how sense of belongingness works, because this strategy supports the theory of multiple intelligence. Therefore, it's a learner-centered approach that, if successfully adopted and applied by an online learning teacher, will de-escalate the feelings of alienation, lighten and encouraging the students to participate in class, and making the virtual class a space for openness and expression. The good thing is, it doesn't stick to a single principle, but sense of belongingness could serve as a basis for many possible solutions towards achieving students' erudition that aids any forms of repercussions, giving us the vital message. The students were the center of the school curriculum, thus classroom management and instructions is no exemption to that, and that it must also be aligned to the students. After all, learning is the main goal of teaching, either be in the new normal setup or in a regular face-to-face class.